Hello, it's me, your friendly neighborhood almost PhD. In today's video, we're going to do another story time. Today's story time is about the mummified dead baby wombat. Just in case people don't know, obviously a wombat is an Australian animal. So when I was a kid, I think it would have been somewhere in the late 90s, possibly very early 2000s. We had this family activity that we called wombat hunting. Now, obviously, we weren't actually hunting the wombats to kill them or injure them in any way. Wombat hunting simply referred to. Ooh, that sounds good. Wombat hunting simply referred to going out at night in the bush to see wombats. So we used to drive down to the Riverlands in South Australia and stay by the Murray River. So we'd stay in like a cabin in like a caravan park. And then at night, we would go out in the car and we would drive through this kind of like bush nature reserve. And we'd get to see all of the little animals that would come out at night. And you could see, and when you shined your torch, you could see eyes being reflected. And so that you could kind of identify animals in the dark through that. And we saw some pretty interesting things. One time we found 3 sheep in there. One time the light of the torch actually picked up the eyes of a spider reflecting on the ground. That was interesting. But anyway, so we often would find wombats doing this, going and doing this drive. And then one time we went and we decided that we would go and have a look around the park during the day because usually we went at night. And it was after a big period of severe drought in Australia. Really severe drought. So we decided to go and look around this park in the daytime. So we were kind of looking around this park and you can find all the wombat burrows just in the ground. And at the mouth of one of these wombat burrows, we found a mummified wombat. Now, so the wombat had obviously died in, probably from kind of heat and water related issues. But because things had been so hot and dry, instead of like rotting away, the body had totally kind of fossilized and totally hardened. It was mostly still intact, it was fully intact. It still had its eyeballs were gone, obviously, but it still had its claws, it had its teeth, and it had died in this kind of scrambling position. So like its last kind of movement was kind of captured. And then obviously, you die and then you go into rigor and you freeze up in that position. So being, kind of weirdos, we took the mummified wombat from the park and we took it home with us. And I was a weird kid. I was just kind of off the charts in a lot of ways. I was reading Anne Rice books when I was 10 and writing kind of horror stories that would I'd be taken aside by the teachers in the classroom, when I was 10 and 11 and kind of told that I shouldn't be writing stuff like that in school. And, so for me being a little goth, I thought, a dead animal, a preserved dead animal is really cool. My mum and her partner were just kind of really interested in natural science. So that was the appeal for them. So now we've got this dead mummified wombat. So this kind of gives you an insight into the type of child I was. So I took the mummified dead wombat to school for show and tell. I was literally 11 or 12, and because I thought it was so cool, it really was so cool. It was so fascinating. If you saw it in a museum, you'd think it was really fascinating. Natural science is very fascinating. But of course, this just kind of further cemented for the other children that I was a total freak, but whatever. But anyway, so, I took my dead wombat to school for show and tell, and I really liked the dead wombat. The wombat was relegated to a box that was kind of put off to the side in the living room and kind of stored. And it kind of stayed there for quite a long time until my mum decided to throw it out. And I'm still not sure. I should probably actually ask her again why why she threw it out. I think she just was just like do I really, I have having, you have so many things to cart around in life. Do you really need to add a dead wombat onto that? So I think that was her attitude. So she threw away my mummified wombat. And I don't really believe in having regrets in life, because I tend to believe that people do the best that they can in the moment most of the time. But I do wish that she hadn't thrown away my dead wombat. I was quite partial to my dead wombat. So that's the story of how my mother threw away my dead mummified wombat. So thank you for listening.